Today's businesses are on a vigilant watch for threats in an ongoing cyber war. It's time to get real-world solutions to protect and secure your valuable business information anytime, anywhere. Welcome to Cybersecurity America.
Well, welcome to the show. Today we have a great guest on today, Steve Stasiukonis. Steve serves as the president of Secure Network Technologies, focusing on penetration testing, information security, risk assessments, incident response, and digital investigations. Steve has worked in the field of information security for over 29 years, specializing in the use of technology to identify information security vulnerabilities, assessing risk, as well as responding to cyber incidents. Now, as part of that experience, Stephen is an expert in social engineering. Steve carries numerous security certifications by various organizations and also serves as a columnist for Information Week magazine and Dark Reading, both magazines that I read. Welcome to the show, Steve. It's so glad to have you.
Josh, thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple things. One thing is last time you and I talked about the world of penetration testing and things you're doing some really cool and exciting things. And I just want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about that, especially when your specialization, social engineering, you're really passionate about that area of testing, and we've had so much problems just lately with scattered spider and help desk attacks and so forth. So what have you been seeing that's interesting and cool?
Well, number one, I think that today's bad guy element is becoming very well versed in using things like AI to change their voice, and the threat actors that are out there, I think, are they're leveraging their English skills in a way that once again are defeating the guys that are running help desk and so on. That I think is the biggest issue. And I think, leveraging that with other ways of these guys using things like SMS phishing attacks or smishing attacks and voice phishing attacks, they're becoming far more proficient. And I think that's where, today's end users and help desk individuals are still they're getting defeated. And that's one of the bigger issues. So it's another vector that I think is up and coming, or, it's going to get refined to be better, for the bad guys.
Yeah. And are you seeing them shift to more social engineering now from an attacker perspective? It seems to be added more and more to their repertoire there. So you kind of use that aspect of it. But are you seeing more increased help desk attacks and so forth?
It's interesting. They will call, in certain cases. And from the incidents that we've dealt with so far, I haven't seen a lot of people get phone calls. Interesting thing, Joshua, they will call the victim now when they lock them up. So if they're not getting the response they want as a result of, because, they're putting stuff on Jabber, they're putting it on Telegram, you have to go to their wall of shame to communicate. So in some cases, they call and they're proficient in English. And once again, they're reaching out. They're reaching out with a voice, with voice communication. To me, it boggles my mind that they're actually doing that. Interesting thing too, I think other threat groups that see what another group is doing will take advantage of that victim by them calling as well. I've actually seen that happen, at one of the jobs that we had that came in. They're becoming very good at what they do. And that's a frightening thing.
I saw one that had an incident where for a client, they used test data. And it was like Mickey Mouse and Peter Pan and all, but it had the company's image. It looked like invoices. It was actually test fake data. They just put the company's name on it and tried to extort them and saying that they had their information. So that was the first time I ever saw somebody fake a data leak. And then the company was about to pay for it. They were like, yeah, we've had this data leak. Until we started going through the names of them, we're like, this is not right. Something's wrong with this. And, so it's interesting to see those tactics, and then how are they defeating the help desk nowadays too? I'm assuming everyone's got the help desk kind of set up differently. You have a few guys that have access rights, and essentially you call in and you put a ticket. That's pretty much the help desk.
Think about a shittier job than being a help desk guy. Everybody that calls you complains. Everybody. Nobody's they're not calling you for, hey, how's your day going? It's usually the result of something not working. So you're beating on a guy that's probably, sitting in a job where it's tough. It's a really tough job. And, when they're getting calls and somebody doesn't have the proper security question answer, or they're struggling with some other method of validating them, it's got to be incredibly frustrating. So for a threat actor to make through that hurdle, I gotta believe that they look at that and go, it's just a matter of time we get the right one, and then they'll make their way through it. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. And I'll tell you why I say that too. So we just did a voice phishing social engineering effort. The guys, my team got busy and they said, Steve, would you call for me? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to call. I dial for dollars all day long. I'll call the same people, give them some story. And believe it or not, there's always that one person that's willing to give it up. And it could be for the most stupidest thing. We posed as one of their vendors. We were asking for a survey on the service we were providing them. I said, if you do this, we'll give you a $50 gift card. I couldn't shut that person up. And that's a frightening thought. So it truly does come down to one.
Yeah, I kind of worry about sometimes social engineering AI. I did research on a company I was interviewing with months ago, and I was just asking like what technology stack they would have. That way I would know in the interview in the conversation. And I asked ChatGPT what was its security stack, and it knew. It freaking knew. It knew what technology it was using at that organization. So you could see with that kind of stuff, because obviously somebody's been putting reports into OpenAI and using that in order to be able to generate their reports and using that as a tool. Well, it's now listening and knows that you have this security tool, or you have this or that. So I see that being a real leakage of targeting information, almost like OSINT. Just ask some AI what you know about the target and have access to that information. So I think that's kind of the future,
The future, it's happening now. Joshua, we've done 3 big physical social engineering jobs where we had to get past the hurdles of guards and gates and turnstiles and everything. And, I've done a lot of this. And over the years, it's a huge pain in the butt. You got to fly out there, do reconnaissance. I mean, we're traveling to places where you're spending time and money just trying to figure that puzzle out. AI is amazing. It gave us so much detail. And here's the thing is, I want you to understand, and the listeners understand too, is that if you don't go into chat or let's say some other large language model and say, tell me like all the names of the guards, all right? It's like that won't happen. But if you say in this particular area, region of the country, in this city, who are the typical guarding services that are predominant? And then it goes right through it, all right? And then from that, you get the intelligence you need to figure out, okay, well, let's do some research on those guys. And that's how you get it. So it's amazing what's already there. It doesn't give you the results immediately. It just gives you the results, a way of searching or finding them quicker. So we've done 3 jobs, maybe more, I should say this. So we've leveraged AI to do all the recon for OSINT. And here's how it goes. So you go to your large language model and you ask it certain questions about the potential target. So you say, tell me the guarding services that are in this predominant, in this region, in this city, and who are the ones that will be used by a Fortune 500 company. And it spits back who they are. Now, if you ask it, hey, who's this company use? It's going to say, well, I'm not going to tell you that because I'm not, it has some understanding. Maybe it would, I doubt it, but we just did a job. It was across the country. Going out there is a huge pain, Joshua. You got to go out there, do reconnaissance for at least a week or 2. You got to start watching things, building a playbook, all those things. Everything for this company we did, it was all based upon leveraging AI to learn about the business. And it wasn't them giving it up. It's everybody around them giving it up. Tell me about the construction projects that are happening within this vicinity. Well, if you go to the county clerk's office, they'll tell you the projects that are out there. How do I get the designs for those projects based in the county clerk's office? Well, you want to log in as this, it was amazing what it gave you. So it really sped up the ability to get all the stuff we need to do the job much more efficiently. To be the attention to detail is amazing. I mean, if Danny Ocean had this with the first versions of Ocean's 11, all that legwork gets thrown away, everything. And I think threat actors are leveraging it a big way. That's where AI makes things so much easier.
Yeah, I was saying that AI, having the different models and using the different platforms is like having smart friends that are smarter than you, just some are better at other things. And like my friend that knows sports left and right, I wouldn't ask him how the economy's going. He wouldn't know, but he could tell you how many points the Knicks put up. And so it's almost the same way when you use like Google's Gemini. I use Gemini for image generation. It's really good at that. Other things, not very good. It tells me it can't do it. Chat GPT, really good for textual based writing and so forth. Not really good for strategy and thinking. You use Anthropic for that. It develops, real strategy. And what I like about Anthropic, it comes back and says that, hey, this is what I was thinking when I did this, and this is what I did. That chain of thought where you just don't get that in Chat GPT in many ways. It just gives you an output. You put something in and it gives you this output, right? So you can see where all these different tools, and now starting off on my own, my own company, I had to build a number of things. You got to build HubSpot, and then you have to have, Panda Docs for sending out documents and contracts. So the modern company today is being built completely different than 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you had to have so many different people and so many different lawyers and different resources to launch a company, where now it's kind of democratized in many ways with these cloud and AI-based applications. You can rent them for a time period and use them. So I think that also presents challenges as well. All the data you're putting in there to do your job now goes in the ether and goes into all these large language models. How do you handle, data breaches now in these LLMs? So it becomes a little complicated, don't you think?
Yeah, well, the thing the one thing I guess, for your listeners is that it's not so much the companies themselves. The policies will be written and they're going to tell their employees, hey, stop putting stuff about us in there or our clients, but it's everybody else around that company. It's vendors that want to do business with somebody and they're using, a large language model. It's going to be everybody that wants to create the efficiencies of state and local government that are doing it and not remembering that perhaps this is going to affect, the people that reside within that area. And I'm telling you right now, we broke into a bank and I was surprised at how much information it gave me. It right down to an event that we crashed. So we crashed the party, entered it, and we would have never known about it. Now we're hanging out with people that are giving us more information. Once again, it's somebody that was out there trying to do the right thing, probably using it to write something a little tighter, and then discloses this event that we just come across as a result of asking him some really good questions, and then leading us to a physical component where we get into the building. So never know. You never know right now. But getting stuff to be corralled is going to be a challenge for everybody until they figure it out.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's happening.
Last time we talked, you were telling me some of the cool stories of the penetration tests y'all do and so forth. You got any more of those that you would share?
Yeah, I mean, there was one we did where we basically, once again, used AI to bypass the controls of the company, but the physical guard team and everything, we needed a plausible reason to be inside of their parking lot. So we learned that there was a huge construction project going on. We posed as the city's utility company. And it's just interesting. AI gave us everything that we needed to understand about the utility company, the badge formats. Badge formats can be a real pain. You got to go through LinkedIn, you got to find all that stuff. We found the badge formats. And then we could have done this and taken that badge format, dumped it into, something like ChatGPT, Sora or something, have it develop another badge for us. We use our own forgery tools here. So we wrote in, we had a truck that looked just like the utility company's truck. It looked better than the utility company truck. In fact, we met the OSHA standards and what they're supposed to have for safety. We had more safety than the actual safety was on the real trucks. Yeah, showed up at a job site, got into the parking lot of the company. The guards converged right on us. And they said, what do you hear? What do you need? And we said, we think the construction crew out there that's carving, this groove into the street with this giant machine. It was like this, I guess they call it like a Vermeer. It's this giant wheel of just like trenching. All right. We said, we think they're going to hit a power cable that will make the building go dark. And they were like really concerned. And they said, what do you need? And I said, we'd like to stay here, but can we use your bathroom? And they're like, yeah. And at that point, we have validation. I didn't realize how good we looked. We had the uniforms, the badges and everything, the truck, and the real utility company showed up. And that's the part why I assume I'm about to go to jail, because I figured they'd make us. And they looked at us and waved and drove away. So at that point, you're pretty much got a shot at getting in. Once we start using their bathroom, we have access in and out. We can film what we need to film. We go back, review the footage. And then we found another door to walk through as an employee. AI gave us all that intelligence up front to go in there and do what we did. And then once we're in the building, gave us we saw all the facility plans and layouts and things that, were part of really, things that required permitting. We had that. Then we commandeered a conference room. There's a system to like book it. We booked it. And then go downstairs, meet the receptionist, talk to her, be nice to her. Hence good social engineering, right? Yeah. And then we ordered lunch from Uber Eats, and then we bought her lunch. Now she'll do anything we want her to do. And at that way, 3 days later, we're hanging out in their building. So then you've got access to everything. Ultimately, the goal was data center, and data center eventually fell. So
I love that. I love the social engineering aspect of it. I got myself in trouble doing social engineering testing. I was at EY and I was on a job in New York down on Wall Street. And the company I was working at, probably 4 or 5 weeks, I'm supposed to be there. They told me to go downstairs and get a badge, a permanent badge. I'll be working out of the Philadelphia office for the next part of the project. But right now, it's just New York for this first 3 weeks. And they said, go get a permanent badge. And I go down to the office to get a badge. And this is a big financial company, financial services company. And the lady said, fill out this form and you'll get your badge. And it asked social security number, asked my address, all this stuff. And I'm like, well, why do you need my social for a door badge? That doesn't even make sense. And she just got mad at me and just like, fill out the form, sir. And I said, so what happens when I put my social? What are you going to do with it? She was just so frustrated at me, just saying, I'll throw it in the garbage, sir. I was like, that's it. I don't need a badge. It's okay. I'm not going to get a permanent badge. And I walked out of the bank. I had no idea that broke some compliance thing, that there was a person refusing to give up their social security number because they do background checks at the place. That went all the way up to the partner leadership management over at EY, that I was refusing to do that. So I discovered a broken control because nobody's ever asked for that, and nobody did proper disposal of sensitive information when you use those forms. So I found a security problem for my report on day one. It caused a lot of problems, and the partners had to get involved. But at the end, it was kind of justified. But I was tired of getting the badge. So what I did is I go in front of the desk, and there's guards at each of the elevators. You go in front of the desk, and you just loop around. It makes it look like you went in front and you got your badge. And I made friends with all the guards there. And I was like, hey, how you doing, Bob? How you doing? For 3 days, I was getting up on that floor and doing my job until they found out about it. So I think the social engineering aspect is just critical, not just the physical aspect of it, but then the social. Like when I was working at Whitney Bank, and I was just essentially a CISO at Whitney Bank, everybody in the South is just really nice. They were trained to be nice. The tellers were trained to be nice. Everybody was trained to be nice. So when a customer had a problem, do whatever you can to fix the problem. And that made them super susceptible to social engineering, because they would violate processes just to help the customer out. And that's okay. This guy really needs help and so forth. So you could see that kind of nice Southerner type mentality towards people made him very vulnerable towards social engineering. And we had guys like you come into the bank and they're taking pictures from inside the vault because they said they were from IT. There was no verification that where's your badge, nothing. It was so it was quite interesting. I'm glad to see y'all are taking a concerted approach towards that and spending a lot of time towards social engineering, because I definitely think it's critical.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing too, and I'll tell you, it's really powerful. In today's world, it's really hard to get somebody on the phone. It's really hard. I mean, I watch our salespeople struggle, and it's very difficult. The cost of acquisition of getting a customer is probably the highest it's ever been. But if we let somebody know we're coming, we call them up and we say, hey, this is XYZ utility company, and we need to do a meter reset. We saw a spike in your electricity and there's a concern. They're like, wow, not a problem. So tell me who you are and when you need to come. And then we did that at a defense contractor, and I'll never forget, we called them. They were expecting us. They actually had a large company luncheon. They invited us for lunch. So we ate. And then he goes, what can we do for you now? And I was like, we need to go to all these places that you have that have like sources of like, meters with power that's being provided to us. They gave us access to every data center. They let us in. It was amazing how much, and it was purely a phone call. And I don't think they expected that to happen. And then it's for us to show up. And it was just, it was an eye opener for me. And then from that point forward, we just start calling and then we just let them know we're coming. And there's no surprises. I don't want to go in there and cause some sort of chaos where it becomes, out of control. To being a pacifist and going in there, you get way more. And that's kind of the effort. Interesting side note, the previous pen testing company, when I talked to the CISO, he says, yeah, the previous guys were here and they were trying to defeat this man trap and they're pushing hard. And, we saw him on camera, we stopped him. And then he goes to the parking lot, he tries another door. It's like, this isn't like, we're not expecting you to be burglars. We want you to leverage things that would break a process within our company to let you do something nefarious. And he goes, and that was the goal. And I think a lot of pen testers have taken the aspect of defeating all sorts of technology on the physical side as part of pen testing. And that's where I think a bit of this is lost. And it's unfortunate, but talking to people is an important skill. Being polite, being diplomatic, having charisma. I think those are important characteristics to making sure that part of the job is done correctly. So some of that's lost. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I think where I could tell you, being someone who has had to buy penetration testing services as I'm working in industry, one of the frustrating parts is when, okay, they'll say, I can't get in from the outside, but you need to provision me a desktop to do internal testing. Fine. Completely understand. Hey, can you go lateral, internal? Let's assume compromise on the desktop and go from there. But when we unquarantine you because we stopped you, the SOC worked, we quarantined you and so forth. We had to release you to continue your testing. Just later on in the reporting, don't try to make it sound like I gotcha. Like, we were able to do this. I do see that pen testers will play up their findings to make it almost sound realistic, just to validate what they found. That way it was like, yeah, see, that I earned the money I just spent with y'all doing this test. Here's this outrageous finding that it's not even truly realistic. But then I fight for months on an audit issue trying to get it off the books, and it's not even realistic. How do you balance that? How do you balance having findings that you feel really actionable, that's truly actionable, and then something that maybe is not as actionable, it's a little bit further out there, but at the same time, you still got to make the point that I was able to compromise and do this without scaring customers. Yeah, do you understand what I'm trying to?
No, I get it. So like, that's where my guys will show an attack path of, we leverage this to get this. And it wasn't some esoteric vulnerability that they're going to use and spout off as this is something you have to fix. It was like, well, tell me why that's meaningful. It's like, if you can prove to somebody that, hey, listen, if these things occur in this particular sequence, like we just showed you, this is why you need to change this. And I think that resonates now, as opposed to, the yesteryear of, people saying, well, I've done some scans and found a bunch of highs and these are things that we're going to patch and fix. It's beyond that. And that's unfortunate with today's world, is that they're thinking that, well, I'm going to fix all these things by just, throwing the latest upgrade on it. We should be good to go. It's not just that. It's all the things that you've done improperly. Then you show them this is why. And then I think that's where the value comes into play. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But for the most part, I've been seeing this for a long time. And I know people used to use vulnerability scanners as a mechanism of saying it was a pen test, and those days have sailed. They're gone. It's not the way it works anymore. So
do you see yourself doing more like red teaming more than pen testing nowadays? Or do you see yourself doing some purple teaming where you're working with defenders to discover things beforehand? Or is it pretty much offensive testing is where you focus more?
No, the purple teaming stuff is gaining a lot of momentum and people want to see it. And I'll tell you why. I know that they're paying for a lot of managed security service providers, and they're always questioning whether or not somebody's asleep at the switch. And then they also want to know whatever they spent their money on that EDR is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. And believe it or not, that's the one where guys, I'll talk to the customers after and I'll say, hey, what did you think of that? And he goes, that was the most valuable thing we've actually ever done here. We've done pen testing. We fixed a lot of problems. He said, but when the rubber meets the road with this stuff, that's where purple team comes back and says, yeah, you did good here, but over here, not so good. And that's where I've seen it. On the red teaming side, I mean, I always think there's value to it because it's it's the true test of an adversary, really going to town, doing everything that somebody out of another country would. Unfortunately, a lot of people, and Joshua, I don't know what your experiences are, but for mine, a lot of people don't want to pay for it. They'll throw the dice and they'll say, I think we're good. I don't know.
It's like not taking your medicine, but pounding some vitamins and going, maybe I'll have it covered here. Do you see where there's some confusion in the market just with potential commoditization of penetration testing? It's like, oh, everybody does pen testing the same. Well, that's not really true, is it? You have a lot of fly-by-nights that run tools, and they think that you just run a tool and you hand them the report from the output, and that's really much all you get. And the client doesn't know the difference. Who really cares? I just made 15 grand by running a $10 tool.
That's the industry. That's the problem now. And I see that we go to events where a lot of MSPs are out there, and they're signing up a service that says it's essentially a port scan. And it's like they're selling it as a pen test and that they're all good. And unfortunately, the customers see a price, it's inexpensive. It could be as low as, pennies per seat to test, but they're just getting, what they're getting. They're getting lackluster data. That's what they're getting. But unfortunately, yeah, that's the industry. Think about this. Hey, Joshua, there's really no regulatory body behind pen testing. There's nothing that says that we have to be, certified by some entity to prove that we're capable of proving that this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there, man.
It's not like CMMC where you have to go through certain certifications to be able to do the testing, pen testing. All you need is a laptop.
Yeah. How many times have you been told, you know what, we're going to have a pen test done, but we know this really smart guy? It was like, really? And that's what you're, unfortunately.
I hate when they say that. I know this really smart guy, because you don't know how dumb the person who's saying that is, right? So you don't, okay, there's a really smart guy. But I think having a company that really specializes in pen testing based on a methodology and a framework and repeatability and so forth, I think is much better than just some smart guy. And then are you seeing retesting where they're actually remediating a lot of things? Because I've seen it where the customers, it's hit and miss. Sometimes they remediate what happened last time, and then the findings are still there. It's like they can't remediate these things moving forward, and the tests just keep piling up. I mean, what have you experienced?
Some do, some don't. Some companies out there, like within 2 weeks, they're back talking to us and they want to validate everything that they said they fixed, and they're concerned about it. Other ones, we get a call 13 months later and they ask us if we still have the report because they want to go back through it and look at some stuff. So you still got those guys, and it's unfortunate, but that's kind of what's out there right now. I don't know where this is going to lead, but I will tell you, from what I see, doing a little bit of testing is so much cheaper than an incident. So much cheaper. Yeah, we just got a call the other day. Company dodged a huge bullet. These guys were like, they were sweating it hard. They stopped the threat actor in his tracks, and I was like, "Have you done a pen test?" And he goes, "No, but we should do one now." Now we realized it took the shot over the bow for the guys to realize, hey, maybe this is actually something that we should have taken more seriously.
Yeah, and I can tell you one thing I'm seeing from the incident response more is crooked insiders. Compromise admins that have access to things, and it's really easy to bribe them or whatever and have them do things and open up servers and IP addresses and so forth. That seems to be happening. I don't know if it's because of the financial stress that people are going through, the economy or whatever. It just does seem that there's more insider threat things that are happening than normal. Maybe it's always been happening. You just didn't know about it as much. But some of these companies have, with just the advent of technology, they'd be able to get things out of companies you never would before. It would take boxes of paper or something else. But I don't know. Have you noticed an uptake in insider threat investigations?
We've had bad insiders, bad employees that are doing things that are questionable and stuff. I got one today that came in, and this guy, we believe, is leveraging communication. He's got privileged information that he's now becoming a voyeur on. And, is he exfiltrating the data and stealing it? I don't know. But I know one thing: the CEO of the company and the president of the company are concerned because they've seen things already leave the organization. And they said, it's not a coincidence. We know it's that guy over there. And so it's happened. Hey, you know what? This goes back, I remember 20 years ago, major corporation, huge. I can't mention their name. They had four bad IT managers, actually four IT directors that conspired together, and they were leaving to go to a competitor. There was a giant RFP on the table worth $1 billion, and they were going to go to the other company. And these guys had spent months stealing information. And I never expected to see what I saw. And that's a level of greed that I thought, that's pretty sinister. I don't think they ever spent any time in jail, but after all the legal bills and everything that went through it, I think their hardship of being able to, you spend money on lawyers like you wouldn't believe to keep yourself out of hot water. And those guys went through a lot. They went through a lot of money. I know they did. So saw it firsthand.
I had an insider investigation for CIO at a major institution. And this guy was doing Snagit screenshots of contracts and sending it to his buddy. Stood up a separate company on the side, was pushing deals. But he did something I didn't even know was possible. But he was a Teams admin, had administrative rights to Teams admin, and was able to remotely turn on the conference bridge in the board of directors room. And you just turn off the monitor. So they had no idea the conference bridge was recording, and he was able to listen to the entire board of directors meetings. So you could see where this guy was involved in purchasing. Even me coming in to do the investigation had to be done separately because he was in the procurement process. So it had to be done outside. So you can see where these type of insiders are, especially if they're high-level executives and they have admin rights. That's the unique thing about this guy. He was a CIO, but he had domain admin rights, had rights to the firewall, had stuff he never should have had that kind of rights to it. And he was on the tech side. He wasn't even in the security department. So you can see where like privileged management and insider, the two kind of go together, right? I mean, if you want to prevent insider, then what are the controls that you would have inside from that? Is there a privileged access management system? Are you how are you accounting for some of these things? The only problem is that when they're an admin, man, that's really hard to prove intent. There was one case I was on that a bunch of servers got destroyed right on the way out, this guy's way out. And you look at the access, you can see, yeah, his credentials did it, but that's normally part of his job is to move things. And it's just those weren't supposed to be moved. Those weren't supposed to be touched. But now how do you prove intent? Was it just a mistake? He didn't abuse his rights because he was supposed to have rights. That was his job to do that type of work. Yet the day he leaves, all these boxes blow up by accident.
Yeah.
So it just becomes difficult to prove intention, I think, if you had that role. But if you were in a role, you were not supposed to have admin rights, or you're not supposed to be messing with virtual machines, and you did something, then I can see them make a case. I don't know. It seems really hard when you'd really have to prove intent somehow for that admin. So it's easy to be malicious, I think.
Yeah, those other four guys, though, it's interesting. The day they got let go, there was a fifth guy that wasn't part of them. They approached him over the weekend, and they said, "We'd like you to go back in. We've hidden some hard drives that are behind some desk credentials and so on." And he came forward. That was the nail in the coffin for him. That was the one that put him over. I to your point, that would have been really hard, and we got lucky with having an honest guy come forward. That's the benefit. Here's a question for you. Have you had a real creepy guy in a business yet that you had to go after?
A real creepy guy?
Really creepy, like just doing creepy stuff.
I had a guy who was using the email at the bank that I was at to meet prostitutes in Home Depots and Lowe's parking lots when he was a business banker and was supposed to be going see clients, and instead was seeing other types of clients, and he was routing all that email through the bank's mail system, right? And so when we had some phishing attacks we had to investigate, one of my engineers goes, "Hey, boss, you need to take a look at this." It was interesting. The guy was talking about how he was getting around on the system, and his boss thinks this, and it just seems dumb to put all that in writing in the email system of the company you work for. But you just notice these guys aren't the brightest, right? But no, I got to hear about your creepy guy story.
Well, it's just interesting. Everybody has one. So this particular company came to us, and they're seeing all these issues with running out of storage, and they're spending tons of money. That was back in the days of EMC. Remember, you'd buy all these Symmetrix devices.
Yeah.
It was stupid money. And they're like, we just can't afford it. We don't understand what's happening. And, rather than somebody doing their own little homework, they also had a bandwidth issue. And they were saying maybe it's something with that. Well, it wasn't it. It was actually an administrator. And what he was doing is he was streaming a lot of content when he should have been working. And I don't know what his deal was there, but after watching some of the stuff he was doing, he would go, now this is a company of about 4,000 employees. He went to every desktop, would pull all of my pictures out of each employee and then keep them. And then he would stash them, and he'd collect each portfolio of every employee that was there. So Joshua, if you went to a wedding or a bar mitzvah or some other event, a birthday party for your kid, you put those pictures there for some reason, and maybe, I don't know, you store them, put them into a background for your computer. This guy would collect it, save it. That was part of his trophy room. Oh, yeah.
That's creepy.
That's super creepy. There was a movie with Robin Williams, 1 hour photo or something. It was that guy. It's just like that guy. Yeah, I mean, every once in a while you get one of those and you don't understand, here's an administrator. How do you get your job done and do all of that at the same time? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects, it may seem harmless, but it's super creepy. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
I had somebody put in a request to unblock pornography because clients were sending pornography to him, and part of his job was to read that and respond to it. It's like he actually put that request in for the bank to open up pornography just for him. It's interesting what some people come up with, these different requests and things that they do. I know social engineering worked. I was at Tulane University at night school, got out of the Marine Corps, I was doing night school, and I'm starving. It's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm so tired of eating out of those candy machines. I called my wife and I said, is there any dinner, honey? And she's like, no, there's nothing. So, but I'm walking back to my car and I look upstairs and there's this multi-purpose building, this big multi-purpose building. And on the top, there's a party and there's lights and there's all kind of stuff that's happening. So I work cybersecurity for one of the banks there. So it was easy. I'm already dressed nice. I go up there and it's all the doctors. And it's from the medical school, and they're all having a party, and they have salmon, and have oysters, and have glasses of wine and whiskey. Man, I took that little name tag, I wrote Dr. Nicholson, I slapped it on my chest, and I walked in there, and I was a proctologist, because here's the thinking, if I was a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon, somebody could ask me some crazy word. I'm not going to know what he just said. I'm a cybersecurity guy. I'm not a brain surgeon, but a proctologist, nobody's going to ask about. And I went there and ate food the entire night. They even asked me if I wanted to speak to the class that was graduating there. Dr. Nicholson, would you like to get up there? And I think the principle was that I just pretended I belonged there. I just belong there. I am a doctor. I'm eating this stuff, and everyone believed it. Is that sort of what y'all do? And when you're doing these different gigs, you kind of believe it. You have the equipment, you have the uniform, and that's why it's so convincing.
It is convincing. And in fact, my partner, Bob passed a year ago. He's a really great guy. We put him on a job at an insurance company. And the goal was, get inside there, connect in the network, get DA, figure out really where the trouble is. But, the CIO said, keep going back. If you can keep going back, after 4 weeks, Joshua, we had to stop. The first week, he brought a dish to pass on Friday. He's friends with all the employees. Week 2, he's doing stuff with them outside of work, like going out to happy hour. Week 3, he joined a bowling league. Now he's actually participating in stuff. And week 4 was listen, you got to give it up, man, because now it's the job's got to end. We got to write a report. And they didn't believe us. The CIO was I can't believe this is something out of a Seinfeld episode. And it was. Remember when Kramer just showed up at work one day? And then he just kept on showing up. And he just belonged. And I asked Bob, I was like, what's it like to go? He was like, I feel like I'm one of them. If I can't get what I need, I ask for credentials, they give it to me. I need to get access to a part of the building I can't go into, they give it to me. It was amazing. He went back after the 4th week, he waited 2 or 3 weeks, he went back. It was old home day. They thought he was sick, they thought he went on vacation. It's you get ingrained in your proctology doctor scenario. And at some point, he was a consultant that was working there that was doing something that they thought was valuable, and whatever he needed, he got. So yeah, play the part well, get what you need.
Yeah, and I was thinking about actually speaking to the class there and coming that I thought I would bust myself and this would, but I could have said, imagine getting up there. Everyone thinks you're a doctor and you're able to say something important. It was just an interesting time, but yeah, and I think moving forward, are you doing less physical pen testing because everything's going to the cloud? It just seems like there's less physical now than it probably was 10 years ago. Is that right?
No, I think it's still there. I think it's always been there, especially for, some of the more regulated organizations like, in finance, even in healthcare, we see it. But, some of the other companies that are out there that are concerned are the ones that are concerned about intellectual property. They're the ones that said, listen, we're supposed to follow this, do it. So it's picking up. It's actually, I don't think it's left momentum, or it's still gaining momentum, I should say. It's shifting into different spaces that perhaps, I wasn't touching before. And it's an interesting thing. Will threat actors travel across the globe to break into a building? I don't know. I mean, there's some countries out there that I wouldn't put it past them, but you know what? It's good work. I think it's interesting work, and it offers value, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I love my job. I mean, I don't know about you when you were doing
Yeah.
it, but I mean,
Yeah.
I get up every day and I love doing it.
Yeah.
So it gets me up in the morning.
Well, especially when you're doing that dynamic red team stuff. Like when I was doing some audit and GRC stuff, I was at Wells Fargo. So I was a group information security officer. And it's risk management with spreadsheets and assets. And it really wasn't fun. But it showed me a whole angle of cyber that is absolutely necessary that most cybersecurity guys never see is the risk management of an organization and how it ties into cyber. So I thought it was always good to kind of see those points. And I think the more regulations that come out, I think the more requirements for penetration testing, for regular program. I see some companies that do it once a year. And then once every 2 years, they switch up a vendor. Instead of making it programmatic, you should be having testing quarterly. And that should be, how did you go from this one? What's your next scenarios for the next quarter's testing? I don't know. I just view things as a program because you have that as an outcome. The whole desire is have an outcome. Well, in order to get that outcome, it can't be one test once a year for that. There has to be some consistent testing cycle and then remediation and retesting and so forth. Are you seeing that's one of the most proficient ways of actually driving down risk is programming the pen testing rather than just onesie twosies? Is that right?
Yeah, I like, listen, selfishly, yeah, I want it for the business, but at the same point, I think that if your network is incredibly fluid and it's changing all the time, which most of these places are, there's always something popping up that has to change or be modified. Yeah, I think that's we're seeing that where people are doing more if they want to understand what risk they're about to open up. Once again, it's always different customer to customer. There's always going to be that, yeah, we did it last year, we should be good. We do it every 2 to 3 years, we should be fine. It was like, it's hard, but we're seeing more people that are understanding that they have to do things a lot more frequently to understand what they're opening up or closing, especially on the web app testing and stuff like that. And the other thing too, Joshua, all the IoT stuff that's out there, I'm telling you right now, you and I could do a whole episode on nothing but RFID, because all that Proxmark stuff that's on the market that myself and one of my engineers, Ryan Wager, we love that stuff. On more than one occasion, we'll throw up an HID panel. That's our HID panel. And it goes over the other HID panel. And, people they scan in, it badges them in, we collect it, we make our own and mint our own badges. It's amazing how easy that is. Technology is a great thing. It's just, once again, it requires a little bit of, being conscious about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And
so I take it your guys are going to DEF CON every year.
Actually, no, we don't, believe it or not.
Yeah.
No, we don't. It's just, it's one of those things where, you work like an Amish farmer, so it's hard to get the time to go. So you watch a lot of YouTube.
No, I get you. I remember I went to DEF CON last year, and there's a guy in the fifth level of the parking lot with the building across the street scanning for Wi-Fi. So it was a guy by the print copy machine trying to blow up printers over there. It's just ridiculous during that conference how everyone's trying to hack and break into something at that time period. So it's always.
And I gotta ask you a question. When you were there, how concerned were you about yourself? in terms of becoming a victim as a result of the guy in the rooftop with some Yagi antenna.
We shut down our phones and the Wi-Fi interface off the phone. So there was concern because they had, I don't know if it was that conference or the one before, where the Kinkos got hit and ransomed. And it was obvious people from the conference, they sent messages that, what do you expect from a DEF CON conference? So you could see there was a lot of that kind of activity. So yeah, there was nervousness that, yeah, your phone's going to get hit. You go on Wi-Fi here. Nobody wanted to go on the local Wi-Fi. They just didn't trust the community, because it's not that penetration testers are bad people, but you have people who are trying to learn new things and throwing all kind of, so it's just a wild, wild west at some of the Wi-Fi. So to me, we just found it easier to bounce off a 5G instead of trying to use anything there.
I'm the most paranoid guy on vacation when I travel. I mean, to the point where, like, I'm telling my wife, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And I'm not some tinfoil hat guy. I'm just a realist. I see certain things and I know good practices versus bad. And she still thinks that I'm paranoid. And I just said, I'm just trying to protect us both. And if I'm like that on vacation, I'd probably pass out at DEF CON or Black Hat. I probably just would have a horrible time.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you see it and you got to deal with it like that, I'll sit back and, like I said, watch it on YouTube. So
I think one thing you could do for penetration testing that would be cool, like if you had a company that was in a certain geographical area, this is the city, it's headquartered, and you just put out a bunch of ads, free tickets for this concert for anybody from this company, I'll put in your code such and such. I saw some attackers were using like local events like that in their phishing attacks. So they would, okay, you're in this part of Wisconsin. I'm going to see what festivals are in that part of Wisconsin, and then hit them with phishing emails that were just so specific, because it can't be a phishing email. That's a local thing here. I mean, nobody would know about that. These attackers don't know. And that was working. So it was just interesting to see how the targeting of people in certain groups makes a whole lot of sense,
Sure. Yeah. Makes
Pass
sense.
it on.
That's actually a pretty good idea. I got some ideas now. So that's not bad, Joshua. Thank you.
Yeah, thinking about doing stuff like that. But, I think the world of penetration testing and everything's continuing to explode. Just technology is changing. So just keeping up with it. And, I'm glad to have guys like you. I started off in pen testing, so I'm a generalist. I can do it to an extent. But when you see guys, that's what they do all day long. And I'm more into the guys, that's what they do all day long. It used to be great that you were a jack of all trades and you can do everything. But there's no way I'm going to do a pen test as well as you guys do, right? And so the thinking is, how do you leverage companies that are really good at that and use them for that? So, yeah.
I'm just lucky. I've got really good people and they love what they do. They're passionate about it. And that's what makes me happy to have a company in this space. Because when I see guys like that take things so seriously and enjoy it and love to learn, because you can't stop learning in this space. You just can't.
Yeah.
Because if you do,
you're an active learner, you wouldn't be in this space at all. I mean, I talk to junior people all the time that want to break into the field, and I ask them, so when's the last book you read? If you're passionate, when's the last certification you took? What was the last article you read? They have nothing. They're not proactively looking at articles. You're not even looking at YouTube. John Hammond's got a whole series on YouTube you can go check out. There's all these resources. If you're not proactively doing it, you don't have the passion for this field. Go do something else, right? And because cyber is so complicated and you have to love this and you have to be able to research a lot, depending on what that device is, that protocol, whatever it is you're researching. If you don't love this, I just think you shouldn't be this at all. A lot of these kids think it's just cool CSI stuff. Like once you learn how to pen test, we're going to hack into the CIA database in 5 seconds, and it's just not even close to the TV programs, right? And
I know.
I think it's hard to explain to them what kind of life that is to be a pen tester versus a GRC person versus a incident responder. And I don't know, when you and I were first coming up, all of us were generalists. We did it all. I did pen testing, security engineering, incident response. Now the specialization, you almost kind of have to pick your specialty. Huh?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just it's so funny you say that about the ones that want to watch TV and then get in the industry because they think it's cool and they're going to pick out the best black hoodie that Lululemon has to offer, but all the things that they need to learn to like do their job, they'll ignore it. And frankly, the tools are the best. The tools now are so amazing, and most of them are they're free or cheap. They're not bad. Yeah, so it's just interesting. Did you ever go to a B-sides event the
Presented at
B-sides meetings like they used to have, or like the no, even better, 2600.com.
Yeah, I 2600.com. I've been there.
I used to go to one in Rochester, New York, loved it. The guys there were the most respect. It was an old burnt out building,
Yeah.
like in this, you got to go to door number 7 on the 4th floor or something. And it was just so interesting because, I felt like I was going to a fight club for nerds. And, I get up in there and there's all these guys on a Friday night at 7 o'clock watching a PowerPoint on how they're defeating some control. And I'm thinking to myself, God, these guys must really love it. And
Yeah.
then again, I remember at one point I was dating this woman. I was an older guy. I was divorced, and I brought her, and she goes, "So this is what you do on your Friday nights?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Wow, that's why you probably didn't have a girlfriend for 4 years." And I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right."
Probably so.
Yeah, but
Don't worry,
interesting.
you get an AI robot nowadays because I heard that you could get like a girlfriend that's, hey, cook, clean, all that. You could buy a robot here for $26,000 or something like that, wherever it was. But
No,
that'll be the future.
I ended up marrying that woman, and actually, she tolerates a lot, and frankly, you have to be tolerant to be in this space. I'm sure your wife's very
Yeah,
tolerant. I'm also scared of her, so that's the other thing that probably helps me. So
yeah.
yeah, she keeps me
My
in the
my
straight line.
wife likes what I do, but she hates the impact. Like we've been in movie theaters, I've had to walk out because of an incident I got called into. So she doesn't like the nature of incident response where we're always on. She likes it when I'm doing more like VCISO, I'm a virtual CISO type work because it's planned, it's scheduled. You're gonna meet at 1 o'clock and we're gonna have this project and but 2 in the morning and your weekend is blown because ransomware got on some production systems. That kind of unscheduled chaos, she can't stand. And I'm used to as a Marine. I'm used to just the alarm went
Yes.
off and you jump out the door, and it's your smoke jumper. But if I was to tell anybody who wants to get in the field and have a family and stability, incident response ain't it. Maybe one of the GRC roles, one of something else, but incident response is like being a police officer and you getting called 911 at different times. So it's a lifestyle.
Same thing. It's funny you say that. So 3 weeks ago, we get a call. Company gets locked up. They're in trouble. I got to go image like 4 machines. All right. And I got to get there quick because I got to like get stuff going to like meet this time requirement. So I said to her, I said, listen, I'm going to leave. I got to go. You're more than welcome to come with me. It's 2.5 hours to drive there. Let's just go there. I'm just going to put a couple boxes in place. I'll do a remote collection and then we're all set. She goes, yeah, I'd love to go. And I was like, great. Now you can see what's going on. I thought we'd be there for 15 minutes. I was going to go in there, put a field system in place, get a couple of Axiom agents from Magnet on there, have my guys pull the stuff. We're all good. 6 hours later, 2 o'clock in the morning, we're heading back home. And she goes, no. She goes, everything you always say about 15 minutes now turns into like 6 hours and whatever.
Yeah.
She goes, I'll never complain again. I understand. And I saw how these people struggle and everything else. So I think it was actually good. At the same point, she's like, can you get somebody else to do that job for you? So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I think we'll try to do that next time. So
What's interesting is like in big enterprises, like an incident responder, and you go in and there's some big incident, and they'll add 5 or 6 GRC people on the phone or whatever, and it almost remembers of Star Wars, like when they have all the troops in the front, but the Jedi, when Darth Maul shows up, all of them like disappear and like, hey, let's let the Jedi take the demon-looking guy. And that's what it feels like in an incident. It's like everybody disappears, and it's just incident responders till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And you can see where a lot of some of that is relevant. What are the risks of these systems? Like I see an IP address, I see an alert, I see this in a console. I really don't know what that is for this customer holistically. I don't know what part of the system it is, what's the risk tolerance, all that. And so you always kind of figured in the real world, somebody from the GRC risk team would be on the phone with you and giving you what the risk register looks like for those hosts. But that never happens. You would think that someone would say, oh yeah, that system's this, and we did a risk assessment, it's low towards there's no context of that most of the time. And I don't know, I was disappointed with that. I thought there would be more context that the other team members would bring in an incident. I don't know what's your experience been, but it's just
have
usually
to
everybody scatters.
it's all the customers are different, but for like this company, they relied on their MSP. When they called them, they didn't get a call back for 2 days. So it was like, where are those guys? And they were like, well, they're busy. It was like busier than to help a customer that's in right now in a really problematic incident. And I was like, it's just really hard to believe. Every place is different. And, a lot of times, yeah, that's what you're seeing. Almost no support.
Steve, it was so awesome talking to you. And I know you have anybody who's got a makeup department, because you do so much social engineering, sounds like you do a cool thing, right? Just the fact that you have these trucks and you have these uniforms and so forth. I would have to run to I'd have to run to the Goodwill here to try and find stuff like that. So it's interesting and fascinating. But if they want to know more about you and your company and what do you do, where do they go to find out? What's your website?
SecureNetworkInc.com, Secure Network Inc. as incorporated.com. And once again, we always like to talk about what we do. We're proud of what we do. And Joshua, once again, if we can work with you and partner with you and offer more of our services, that's our goal. But passionate about about this industry. And once again, we're in it because this is what we do. It's not some side hustle.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah,
That's
thank you again. Appreciate being, on here with you. And if you ever want to do another one, I got some other pretty cool tools I'd love to share, especially in the RFID space. I think you'll enjoy those.
I think I'd enjoy it as well. Well, thank you so much. And just everybody else who's listening, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and help distribute that out. Go and visit his site as well and be able to post it out to your entire network. So everybody have a good evening and stay secure.
Thanks, Josh. Bye.